Tonight on Business Live, public sector employees cautioned not to expect an increase in their net salary by the same 15% cost of living allowance approved by government. Also, good news, expect significant reduction in fuel prices this weekend.
Every indication that pump prices would decline or go down by some 5% between the two products, petrol, diesel.
We have more on this, plus the maiden edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting on the state of Ghana's economy set to be held at the University of Ghana Business School on Monday.
This program is supposed to give a platform to our students to engage on national issues.
All these and more coming shortly. To stay with us. Hello and welcome. Public sector employees should not expect an increase in their net salary by 15%. That's the assertion by finance lecturer Professor William Sepra. Government yesterday reached an agreement with public sector workers, that's the trade union, to implement a 15% cost of living allowance known as COLA. Thankfully, Professor Pepra, who is an associate professor with the Andrews University at USA, will be joining us to explain why workers should be measured in their expectations. But joining us as well is the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekubobert, for government's clarity on the allowance. We're grateful, sir, that you could join us. First of all, how did both sides, including government, settle on a 15% COLA for public sector workers?
Well, good evening, my brother, and good evening to cherished listeners out there. Indeed, yesterday was quite a hectic day, but in the end, it was rewarding. You'll recall that Labour on May 1st, through the TUC, had requested for government to look at what they call COLA, cost of living allowance, in the face of hardships that have generally befallen on Ghanaians. So the president, in his wisdom, after give and take on Eid, appealed to the labor force to exercise restraint, and then also admonished his side, as a government side, to amicably meet with labor and see how we can mitigate these hardships that have been induced as a result of this global effects. So fast forward, yesterday we met. It was not an easy one. Labour had requested 20%, and government, obviously, looking at how tight our fiscal space is, was very difficult to move up even from 5%. But, Labour put up very cogent arguments that last year they took 4%, this year they took 7%, and then at that time, inflation was not where it is now. Today, we are looking at around 29% or so, and so they pleaded with us that we also step up. We also made the argument that it's very, very difficult. In fact, a 1% increase in the emoluments basket amounts to over 300 million, and that alone was very huge for us. So we pleaded with them, but in the end, it was a win-win situation. We had to arrive at the 15%, 1.5%, effective July 2022.
Indeed, when you say a win-win situation, one may wonder, Because in your subsequent analysis, in your subsequent submission, you made it quite clear that government initially settled for a 5% allowance, considering the tightening of the fiscal space. So, I mean, now that you've settled for a 15% allowance for these public sector workers, what could be the risks involved regarding the tightening of our fiscal space as we speak?
No, but you remember that labor also had to come down from 20%. Initially, they didn't even want to come down at all because the inflation rate, indeed, if anybody held 100 cedis from the beginning of the year, it is no more 100 cedis now. And we are all in this. We must not pretend as if we have not seen, except that all of them and us understand that the problem is globally induced. And let's take it that the president, whatever it takes, wants to mitigate this effect of this global pandemic that has fallen everybody. So, I mean, that was first and foremost. And remember, our greatest asset we have in this country is the human resource, that is labor. And whatever it is, if labor is not able to go home with what they call now, I mean, everything has been eaten away by inflation and so on, we cannot look on like that. That's why I said they made cogent arguments. We also made same. But in the end, it's a matter of priority. If we think, and I think the president prioritized the labor force ahead of everything first and foremost. We are grateful to him. We are grateful to the ministers that met. You could see that it was a very high-level engagement. About 4 ministers and deputies were present. In the end, I think the information minister even joined. So 5 ministers who had to spend their whole time in labor yesterday. And for me, I think that the commitment to this negotiation was high. We need to commend each other. That is why I say win-win situation. We couldn't have just said, because of our tight fiscal space, there's nothing that we could do. At a point, finance people will have to step out. They will have to do calculations and all that. They will have to call the president himself. All of these things interplayed, so we got to where we got to.
Now, this is a cost of living allowance, and basically it is to cushion public sector workers, in your own words, from the hikes in inflation. But what happens when the tide turns, when we achieve economic stability? Will there still be a COLA?
Oh, no. I mean, in this dispensation, you will recall that in 2014, there was a COLA. So we have history of COLA. The times that has engineered what has brought COLA now is not too different from 2014. And as things stabilize and normalize, then COLA goes away. So they will still go back to their basic pay.
So it's temporary?
Of course, that is the concept of COLA. You do this, we hope and pray. You know, the Bible says everything shall come to pass. This is a globally induced pandemic, globally induced challenge that we have had on our hands, and we need to mitigate this. So the president, in his wisdom, thinks that we need to do something. And this is a discussion between labor and government. And I'm sure at any point, the discussion continues. So when we get to the bridge, I'm sure we'll cross it.
Indeed. Bryce, we're grateful that you could join us with government's standpoint on this issue and for the clarity on the cost of living allowance. So let's bring in the Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University Business School at the USA, Professor Williams Kwesi Pepra. He joins us via Zoom. We're grateful that you could join us. You mentioned that public sector workers should expect their 15% subjected to some tax deduction. Can you shed more light on this analysis you've made?
Thank you very much, Charles, for calling me. So in the Ghana tax law, what's normally called cash allowance, which is paid to employees, are subject to tax. One such element is the COLA. So what I was expecting the trade union members to have negotiated was to go for a non-taxable COLA. what it means is that would have allowed them to be exempted from pay as you earn on that amount. So what is currently going to happen is that though government has mentioned or have agreed a 15% increase in salary, it is not going to translate into a 15% increase in net salary or take home because of the tax implication. In fact, some workers may be worse off because when government is computing their chargeable income, the 15% COLA will be added to the basic salary plus any allowances before the PAYE tax bracket is applied. So this is what's going to happen. We shouldn't give workers the assurance that they are going to see a 15% increase in their net salary. This is something that we must make sure that workers understand, and then when it's paid, you don't also go and agitate again. COLA, or cost of living allowances, is a cash allowance which is subject to tax, and that is what is going to be applied now.
Indeed, indeed. And of course, we've heard from the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment lay this particular claim. But it also begs the question about how sustainable this particular allowance is, because tax experts are also raising concerns that with this allowance also being dished out by government, it could escalate expenditure and put us in a very precarious situation. From your perspective, how prudent and sustainable do you think this cost of living allowance will be in the medium to long term?
I mean, so this cost of living allowance is to put it in layman's term, to cool down the engine or to cool down the tempest or the issues that is going on within the labor front, especially with the various strikes. In fact, it is anticipated that during inflationary period, normally it's best not to increase salaries. But looking at the condition of the Ghanaian in Ghana in terms of their net salary or take home, it is advisable that government will have to do something. So the 15% that government has given is just to cool down the employees and let them know that we government thinks about them. And what we are anticipating, normally when it happens this way, is that employees will now tend to invest, knowing that treasury bill or interest rate is going up in the country. So government find another way to collect the money back into its operation. That is what we are hoping that it will happen. But if employees decide to push it into consumption, it's also going to cause a little bit of inflation in the system. So normally government may have to find a balancing act. And I'm sure the 15% is something that government thinks that they can contain, and also to make sure that workers can live on it until things normalize and the COLA is taken off the payroll.
So there won't be any fiscal risks from your perspective?
I mean, now workers are assured that, there's a 15% coming. So if any worker who works in public service is planning to go on a strike, to stop it. It is better to get people working, to get the system running, than to say you are not going to give any COLA, and then the system will come to a halt. So this is a temporary measure to make sure that workers are able to find their feet, to be able to meet the inflationary pressures within the economy, and then government also have a peace of mind to plan. And in that respect, it is going to lead to a mutual benefit for both government and then the employees as well.
As always, we're grateful for your submission. Dr. Professor Williams Gosi-Pepra there from the United States. Now, outgoing Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hosi, is warning of serious fuel supply challenges and a banking sector crisis in the coming months if current concerns about the right pricing for petrol products and funding issues are not duly addressed. The chief executive of the chamber, who is stepping down from his position from the 31st of July after 10 years, spoke to George Rafi on PM Express.
The government was regulating prices today, and consumers were paying full price. It will be paying higher than they are paying at the pump. Really? Just read the industry reports, and you see the NPA price benchmarks. When you see the actual NPA price benchmark, if they were setting it, and you see what you are paying for, I think that you'll be chasing the BDCs and then the OMCs and giving them plaques and awards and even asking them how they do it. I sit here, I even struggle to imagine
how are you doing
do
it.
I think people are just teaming and leading, and a lot of debt is piling up. Very soon there'll be a crisis on that particular part of the sector, and that's why the banks, together with the chamber, have taken a proactive step to look at ways to de-risk and cure this problem. George, you can't buy something at 12 and sell at 11 and expect to make money.
But how are you surviving? You are private firms. You are not for the Christmas.
So there's a very lousy sense.
What is stopping you from pushing to ensure when George drives to a senior service station, I pay for the right price? It's competition. There are over 100 oil marketing companies in Ghana.
There are different ways of doing that. Either you are stealing from the state, or you are stealing from your bank or your financiers. Somebody is giving something. So that's why we have to make sure we properly sanitize the structure, the funding structure, because it's the biggest problem you have in this industry. You have a shortage problem when you actually have a funding problem. The last time we had a shortage in this country is because we had a funding problem created by government's unpaid subsidies.
And that has always been the problem.
In recent times, the close shave that we have had has also been a funding problem because of challenges with FX. And even when FX was fixed, now we have challenges with the pricing of FX. So it's always a funding problem that yields shortages in Ghana. It has had never anything to do with
ability to supply product.
The product is there. If you pay, you get it.
We still stay with petrol matters because the prices of petrol products are expected to witness some significant reduction this weekend. This is based on data secured from some bulk oil distributors on pricing of products for the next 2 weeks. Diesel should go down by more than 11%. Petrol, on the other hand, should go down by almost 4%. LPG will be reduced by almost 10% per kilogram. Take a listen to Duncan Amwa, who is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers.
We pick every indication that pump prices would decline or go down by some 5% between the two products, petrol, diesel. Diesel has gone down steeply. Petrol has done about 3% reduction. Diesel has done almost 11%. Unfortunately, there was the reintroduction of the rebate that government through the finance ministry did of 15 pesos. And so plus and minus, you are looking at doing about 5.3% effective second window, July. What that means in nominal terms, you are looking at between 50 to 70 pesos a litre, scaling down on pump prices. We would make attempts to talk with them to hold on a bit, to see what the pumps throw at us. I'm sure their frustration is also stemming from, increases over the past few weeks, and we'll personally make efforts to at least get to them to see how they could hold on to observe a few more days what pump prices become.
You're still watching Business Live. Still to come in the bulletin, the maiden edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting on the state of Ghana's economy set to be held at the University of Ghana Business School on Monday. More after this break.
This program is supposed to give a platform to our students to engage on national issues.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, in an effort to deepen public engagement on matters regarding the economy and the best way forward, Joy Business on Monday, the 18th of July this year, will hold its maiden edition of the town hall meeting at the University of Ghana Business School. This will afford the students the opportunity to discuss happenings in the country. Dean of the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Justice Baole, has been speaking to us ahead of this event.
Supposed to give a platform to our students to engage on national issues. You know, our school is a business school. We train students in various disciplines, and we want them to be abreast with the events that are happening in the country. Not just that, but that they should have a say in the things that happen. And we think that this event is going to offer our students a platform to share views on what they think is happening to us as an economy, but also most importantly to get the students share views and perspectives on how they think we should be moving forward as a nation. I am sure that students would have interest in all manner of things, including some macroeconomic indicators. I'm sure students will be interested in our debt burden. I'm sure students will be interested in the issues of inflation. I'm sure students will be interested also in the things of unemployment and economy generally. So I expect that this the students would come forth and speak up and put forward their positions as far as the economy is concerned. My expectation again is that students would, after this event, begin to appreciate, because this will discuss, and the students would appreciate the conversations and perhaps pick up these conversations on their platforms in their lecture rooms with their lecturers, and to engage with the Business House JCR events and other programs. Ultimately, I think the political managers should probably tune in and listen to the views of young students who have a thing or two to say to them. Who knows? Maybe salvation may just come from the students.
Now, talking about these students, I know you engage them in so many ways. What have been some of the feedback with respect to the indicators out there, how the economy is faring and all that? What have been some of the feedbacks from some of these students?
Well, I mean, our students are very active students. In my class, for example, when we engage students on the state of the economy, and we usually will talk about various aspects. One of the things that I teach is on ethics, and in the ethics class, we usually will look at major considerations. For example, the level of corruption in Ghana. We would usually talk about the Auditor General's report, other forms of leakages, for example, things like exemptions that cost the country a lot of money. You would see that students are really passionate about these, and so our students are alive to the discourse in the country, and they have a thing or two to say. And so I expect that the way they are active in class and the contributions they make in class will be brought to bear on the discussions of the day.
With us on Monday for this town hall meeting at the University of Ghana Business School. Let's now talk agriculture, because genetically modified organisms processes are far advanced to commercialize them in Ghana. Some scientists project that we will have pod borer-resistant cowpea on the market by next year. My colleague Ayitey has visited the trial field and assessed the processes in determining Bacillus thuringiensis in GM crops and farmers' readiness to use it ahead of its commercialization. Take a look.
We have a lot of challenges in our farm, the cowpea farms. Why? Because the insecticides, they have been disturbing us a lot. When you farm 1 acre, the yield is not good. Why? Because the insecticides have been disturbing it.
Mohammed Sibdo Willie Bieli is a 51-year-old farmer at Nyankpala in the northern region. The father of 6 has been farming for 30 years. He describes the occupation as not lucrative, as he reveals he owns just an acre of land.
My name is Mohammed Sibdo Willie Bieli. I'm 51 years.
How long have you been a farmer?
Yeah. About 30 years now.
30 years?
Yes.
And all these 30 years, what kind of crops have you been growing?
I've been growing maize, yam, and groundnut.
Okay. And when did you start cowpea?
About 6 years ago.
Mohammed says the past 6 years has been enlightening as he came into contact with the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, SARI, of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. According to him, the commercialization of the pod borer-resistant cowpea gave him hope that most of his problems will be solved.
Coming to contact the GMO, I learned a lot from the GMO because they have been calling us to observe it. So anytime we come and see it, it was good. Why? Because they have been spraying only twice for the GMO. But when you compare to the one we are spraying 5 times, it looks as if the twice spraying is look good than what we have been spraying. Yeah.
So what do you think? Would you like to adopt it? Would you like to?
Yes, we like to adopt the GMO one. Why? Because if we adopting the GMO one, it will help us a lot.
We have more on this Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Joy News channel. And please make a date with Emma Davis and the team. That's it for Business Live. I'm Charles Ayitey. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.